Hello and welcome, dear listeners, to episode 214 of The Reformed Gamers, the show about theology, video games, and singing sea shanties. Despite how terrible we sound, we do it anyway. I'm your host, Logan, and joining me is, hang on, let me check the doc here. It says the preeminent Lord of Parrots, but you probably know him as Jonathan, as he's been on the show before. Preeminent Lord of Parrots. How are you this evening?
I am doing great. It's great to be back. I got on early and was bored, and so I started messing around with the show notes and just typing random things, and somehow that came out. So here we are.
I can't wait to go through the rest of the notes and see what other random things are in here. It'll be like in Anchorman when he's reading literally everything on the teleprompter.
Right.
And I'll just be over here and Skinner will be listening to this long after he's cringing from the horrible editing that I've done on this episode. And he's just like, gosh, dang it, you can't put it in the show notes. He reads everything off there.
Well, lucky for you, I spent all my time at the top. So
okay, fair enough.
I didn't get very far into the rest of it.
So we're through the worst of it then. Okay,
it's true.
That works then. Well, cool beans. Dear listeners, in case you don't know, Jonathan's been on the show before. He's been on several episodes of the podcast. Most of them have been Legend of Zelda related, with
true.
A few being... no, that was Skyward Sword. I was trying to think like, no, there's a different one he was on in December, but nope, that was Legend of Zelda as well. So pretty much any Legend of Zelda episode we've done, he has been on. So you'll want to go check those out, especially if you're a Legend of Zelda fan. But you're probably wondering, like, why did I call him the Lord of Parrots? Was that a real joke? And kind of is, kind of isn't. Jonathan, introduce yourself to the dear listeners as ParrotMode.
Yeah, so I recently decided to take up streaming on Twitch. It's something that I have wanted to do for a long time, something that I thought would be fun, but I always had excuses in my head, like, that's just not who I am. I've waited too long. I'm too old. There's all kinds of excuses. And finally, some stars aligned and some things kind of worked out. And I thought, you know what? I think this is my time. So I know I texted you guys multiple times over the course of like 2 months. I spent trying to figure out what my username could be. And anytime I came up with a good one, it was taken. And I was like, man, I just cannot figure out what a good username is. And so finally I landed on ParrotMode, which is sort of alludes to my love of all things tropical and beach and so forth. And then mode is kind of like a video game thing, like a game mode. So we're playing in ParrotMode. So ParrotMode on Twitch, and pretty much everywhere else except Twitter on ParrotMode TV, because that's all I could get.
Yeah,
but, Twitter, it's been fun.
Twitter's always the weird one. Like you always have to put like TV at the end of your handle for some reason over there. I'm not sure how names like ParrotMode or Shadeless get taken so quickly, but it is what it is.
It's crazy. And it's crazy because some of the other names I thought of, it was like, all right, these are taken everywhere. But ParrotMode, I was actually shocked. It was free almost everywhere except Twitter. So I feel fairly lucky in that regard. I only had to make it different one place.
Right on. No, that's pretty good. Anytime you get to make it consistent across all the platforms, it's like, okay, struck gold in more ways than one. But yeah, I'm noticing, you talking about your love of tropical stuff. I'm looking in the back behind you there. Is that a Lego pirate ship that you got back there too? Look at that.
So Lego released a kind of a refresh of the pirate set in 2015. And it's the full ship, which you see there. And then there's like a kind of a pirate skull fort hideout, which you can kind of see like right there. It's pretty small. And a few other like imperial forts and things like that. So I bought all of them because I love pirates in general. And I thought I'd feature it prominently. I also have a ship in a bottle, which is kind of hard to see.
Okay. I was wondering if that was just a bottle of rum that you have for the days that you have really hard times at Sea of Thieves, or if that's the ship in the bottle one.
It was a bottle of rum. It's empty now.
Oh, okay.
No, it's a Lego ship in a bottle, which is cool.
That's even better.
Yeah, I really like it. Cool. So I like pirate and nautical things.
Yeah, man. No, that's cool. For those of you that are only listening to this podcast on your podcast catcher, you need to go to the YouTube channel and check this stuff out because that's pretty cool as well. Which is funny, you bring up Legos, and I just got my Lego catalog in the mail, so I'll be rifling through that, just seeing if there's anything that I want, but probably won't need because I already have bought so many Gundams that I need to build, and so I'll put those up. But
dude, you have been on a Gundam roll. They're looking good too.
I know, man. I'm stoked. I actually just bought kind of my I don't even know what the right word is, like the Holy Grail Gundam that I've been wanting to build for a while now. And I'm going to say what it is, and like 90% of our audience is going to have no clue what I'm talking about, but it's called the Sazabi Verka Master Grade build, which is supposedly one of the biggest Gundams you can build, to the point where like it's labeled as a master grade, but I've seen a lot of reviews say it's more like a perfect grade, which is the step above that. And I'm like, let's get it. But I've had it for two. It's supposed to be like close to a foot tall, I think. From everything I've read. Yeah, it's a pretty beefy thing. So
wow.
I've had the kit for like 2 weeks, and I've been too intimidated to open it up and start working on it. So I'm like, I'll get around to it when I get around to it. But I like looking at the box.
Dude, I can't wait to see pictures of that. That's going to be intense.
Yep. I'll be sure to post them on Twitter, if any of you are curious about that stuff, you can follow me on Twitter, Logan, or you can just join the Discord server and I'll post it in the What You Making channel. Super excited to have Jonathan on for this episode. In case you haven't noticed from the title, the episode art, any of that stuff, we are covering Sea of Thieves tonight, which is an episode that we probably should have done years ago. It's just 2022 is the year that we are getting our stuff together and doing all the episodes that we should have done a long time ago. And so it is finally happening. And Jonathan is one of the biggest Sea of Thieves fans that I know, if not the biggest Sea of Thieves fan that I know. So I'm super excited to have him on. We're going to discuss that game. And hopefully those of you that are listening are huge Sea of Thieves fans as well. And hopefully we can get together and play some games together. As always, join the Discord server. That link will be in your show notes. So join us over there. A lot of cool things happening in the Discord, actually. So you can group up with Sea of Thieves. You can play Elden Ring together with people. You can play Halo. You can join the weight loss challenge. If you're into D&D, yes, I do mean Dungeons and Dragons. You can get into our one-shots that we do once a month and a variety of other things. So join the Discord server. Link will be in your show notes. Some other housekeeping things here as well is my review for Trails in the Sky. Second chapter is up on YouTube now. You can go check that out. And that is, I had a lot of fun doing that. I had a lot of fun playing the game and even editing it as well. There's some fun little editing tricks that I added in there that I managed to teach some of my students. And so they didn't care when I was teaching them it, but when I was learning it and teaching it to them, I had a blast. But speaking of things that have nothing to do with teaching, well, no, I guess it does have something to do with teaching. For those of you that may not be aware or maybe have forgotten, Skinner, our editor, is taking the month of April off because he is working on getting certified and trained up to be a missionary. So him and his family are working on that this month. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And he will be finishing that up this month. And so he reached out and said, hey, I need to take April off so I can finish this stuff up. And I was like, dude, no worries. I will just edit the show very poorly and it will probably sound really bad, but you can take the month off, get that stuff done, and then come back and see what kind of shambles the show is in after you let me edit it. But thankfully, Zencaster actually takes care of a lot of it for me, so it should be fine. Secret links will also be in your show notes as well, so be sure to check those out. I will just tell you ahead of time. One of the links is the link to my Trails in the Sky review because I'm trying to promote that thing as hard as I can. So last thing, but not least, definitely rate and review the show. I was looking at some of our reviews on the different podcast platforms, and it's been close to, if not over a year since we've gotten a review on our platform. Oh, wow. So if you're on Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, leave a review, say nice things or say mediocre things. I don't know. It's up to you, but please do one of those things. We would greatly appreciate it over here at TRG. And with that being said, hello and welcome to the Reformed Gamers. Let's get into a little bit of what have we been playing. Jonathan, what you been up to, man? What have you been getting into as far as games are concerned?
So I've been playing a handful of things. I'll mention quickly. I have dabbled in a game on GamePass called Forager.
Okay,
it's a little indie game. It's just one of those kind of one-man show type games, and it's a really simple like craft, gather a bunch of resources, craft stuff, and then build things, and then gather a bunch more, and then grow your world. And it's really simple, top down. And I don't even know why I started it. And when I first started playing it, I was like, I'm not really sure this is my kind of game. But it has a good kind of loop, and it got its hooks in me pretty quick. I don't know what it is. It's just a satisfying, just a simple, colorful, whimsical, like craft and build and grow a little world kind of game. So if you're into that kind of thing, it's polished, it's simple, it's pretty fun.
Cool.
I've also been playing a lot of an older game, Super Mario 3D World, older, not that old, with my 5-year-old, because he is super into all things Mario right now, and much to my joy and so proud of him.
You're a big Mario guy too, so I mean, that's like right up there.
Dude, the kid's got like a Mario pillow, all this stuff. So yeah, no, he loves Mario, and we've been playing through Mario 3D World together, and we're pretty far in, and it dawned on me out of nowhere, because I also recently played the Mario All Stars 3D collection that came out I think last year. Yeah. And I have a kind of a new hot take, kind of a new opinion on these Mario games.
Here we go.
Super Mario 3D World is better than Mario Galaxy.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
It is. And I mean, I know that sounds like blasphemy. I love Mario Galaxy. I think it's a masterpiece. But having just played it, 3D World is just so much more polished and so much more. It takes a lot of ideas and platforming things and just a lot of stuff that Nintendo does really well. And it feels like it distills it down to the stuff that really matters. And each level is a very tight, highly polished experience with rare exceptions. There's a few levels where it's like, that kind of sucked. But like by and large, and it's also like the scope of content. You get all the way to like World 7, which is like Bowser's Castle. And then it's like, oh, just kidding. There's a whole other world. Oh, just kidding. There's actually a whole bonus world. Just kidding. There's actually a bonus world beyond that. And another one beyond that. And the replayability and the way they just keep throwing tons of levels at you. It's chock full of content, and it's really, really tight Mario platforming. And it's just great. So
wow. You know, when I saw in the notes that you had a super spicy hot take for this, I was not expecting that, because I know you, like, I mean, we've been friends for like years, dude. So like, I know that Super Mario Galaxy is like up there as like the pinnacle of Mario games for you, and to come out swinging with this, are you like, what happened when you became a streamer? Did you like
all hope is lost? Yeah, no, it's things are changing. I don't know, man. I already was of the opinion that Odyssey is better than any other 3D Mario game, period. But I think that's not too crazy to say. Yeah. But yeah, man, like Galaxy I held in high regard, and I still do, but I do think 3D World tops it. So if you haven't played it, check it out. It's really good.
I think I've gotten as far as like the third world in that game on the Switch, and I haven't gone any further than that. I got distracted by something, so I'll have to go finish it up.
It just doesn't get bogged down. It like brings a really cool, fresh idea, and you're like, wow, that was really neat. And then it's like on to the next thing, and it just keeps throwing new, creative, crazy stuff at you. It's really cool.
That's cool. Sounds good. Now, I'm seeing something else on your what you've been playing.
Yeah, my last one. This
okay. I was like, we're not skipping this because I need to hear about this game.
No, this is the big one. I spent longer on Mario than I thought, but that's just me. So I have been playing a little indie game that just came out on GamePass, and I think it's just Xbox right now, actually.
I think so.
But it's on GamePass, called Tunic.
Yes.
And it is a Souls-like, Zelda-like is the best description I can give, having played it so far. And dude, like last year, an indie game called Death's Door, which made pretty big waves.
Yeah, great game.
Great game. It was my game of the year, and it was also very Souls-like, but it wasn't brutally hard. But some of the end bosses were pretty tough. Like it got, but it wasn't ever like I've been fighting this boss for half an hour. I'm gonna throw my controller. Like it was tricky, but it rarely got that bad. Tunic is that bad, but it's only sprinkled here and there, the combat. So it's like it'll be brutally difficult, but then there's a long respite of like exploration and puzzles. But the big thing about Tunic is it is absolutely dripping with mystery and with discoverability, I guess is the word, like things to discover. It doesn't tell you how to do anything. It's one of those, like, it respects your intelligence, but it goes a step further in that there are pages of a manual to pick up all over the world. And when I say a manual, like literally it feels like the old manuals that used to come inserted in the game box. You get a digital one that you can flip through like 3-dimensional pages like a manual.
Okay.
But you gather it up one page at a time and not necessarily in order. So you're piecing this manual together and you'll finally get the page that talks about like dodge rolling and sprinting and things. And you realize how you do that. But the manual is primarily written in a runic language that you don't know. And so you're sitting here trying to decipher like what this thing means. It does have English sprinkled throughout here and there for a few things, but so much of the game, it's like you're figuring out, you're playing the game and figuring it out that way. You're reading this manual, trying to piece together what it means. It has actual, literal, like hand drawn with a pen, like lines and things, like drawings on the maps and lines and stuff that hint at stuff. And it's just putting that together, the really tight combat, the beautiful art style and music and sound design. It's all coming together and threatening to be a game that I love even more than Death's Door. I'm not far enough yet, I don't think, to say that confidently, but so far, like, it's become that game that, you know, people talk about all the time, where it's like, it's all I think about now. All I want to do is go back and play more Tunic. And I have been streaming it. So if you want to see Tunic, you can jump on my stream.
Right on. There you go.
But it's been hard to only stream it. I want to just play it in my free time and beat it because it's so great.
I've always struggled with games like that back when I was streaming. It's like, man, when you find a game that you're really digging and you want to play it off stream, but you feel like you can't, it's like, dang it, you know? So I understand. I like the verbiage that you use that you said Tunic is threatening to become your favorite over Death's Door. And it's like, it's almost like Tunic is like holding a sword to your throat or something. I mean, like, this better be your favorite.
Right. Yeah, it's just every new thing I discover, every new area I come to or surprise I find, it's like, oh, that's really cool. Like, it's the stuff you discover is jaw-dropping half the time. It's pretty awesome.
I'm definitely going to check this out because I've seen quite the buzz about this game online, both Twitter, Facebook, and a few other places. And even seeing your text, you know, telling us in the group about it, I'm like, this might be the palate cleanser that I need after Elden Ring a little bit, while still maintaining some of the stuff that I enjoyed from Elden Ring. Because a lot of how you described it, especially in the group chat today, I was like, or maybe it was yesterday, I was like, this sounds like Elden Ring, but like not quite as brutal, but at levels of the same brutal. I don't know. I'll check it out.
I mean, I haven't played Elden Ring. I'm sure it's not that brutal. From what I've seen and read, it's like, it's probably not that bad. But like, I mean, the very first major boss, I think I spent close to 2 hours on.
Oh, wow.
But a lot of that was understanding what the game expected of me and understanding the mechanics still. And so I think if I had realized some things sooner and not hit my head against a wall for so long, it might not have been that long. It just took me a while personally. But then ever since then, the second boss fight, it was like 45 minutes and it wasn't nearly as bad. Okay. So still very challenging, but I'm learning the language of the game. So it's not, it's fairly brutal, I guess.
Okay. I'm definitely going to check this one out because I'm definitely interested. And plus with it being on Game Pass, it's like, there's no excuse.
Yeah, it's just one of those Game Pass gems. It's why I love Game Pass, dude. These games come along and they're so good.
Yep. I'm definitely going to have to get into it. Well, as far as what I've been playing, then I already kind of mentioned a little bit. Elden Ring is a game that I finished recently, put 91 hours into that game, and it is a beefy boy of a game. I'll say this, and I don't know how much of this is recency bias, because previously Dark Souls 3 was pretty much my favorite, like, Soulsborne game. As of right now, Elden Ring is my favorite. Like, I put it up there at the top because there's a lot of nice little quality of life improvements they added to this game, such as like the statues of Marika, which are these little statues they place outside of a lot of the boss rooms. So if you die, you're not making this long trek from the bonfire back to the boss area to fight the boss. You're just usually spawning either right outside the boss area or not too far from it. And so that goes a long way in kind of keeping you engaged in the game and playing it. And then you have the added ash summons, which are these little ghost summons that you get. It could be something that's like a pack of wolves. It could be something like a jellyfish that shoots poisonous goo out. It's just funny to see.
As they do.
Yeah, just as they do, you know. It could be this like crystal warrior that's super tanky and throws out this like disc weapon that's really good at just creating a distraction. Makes it super easy I shouldn't say super easy. It doesn't make all the boss fights trivial, but it does go a long way in helping you, especially if you're a newer player, get eased into the combat and what to look for. And it just helps out, especially if you don't have a very good internet connection or you just have no internet connection. You can still get some kind of help on a lot of the bosses. And so
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty dope. It's a really nice feature that I didn't think I'd use a lot, but I found myself using it quite a bit, especially in the end game, because there's one item called the Mimic tier that basically clones your character with all the same weapons, stats, spells, armor, everything.
Whoa.
Yeah, so you basically have two of you fighting the boss, and depending on your build, it makes it super easy. I heard a lot of stories about how people struggled with the last boss, which is like a 2-phase boss, and I used the Mimic tier and probably took it down on my 10th or 11th attempt, somewhere around there.
That's not bad.
No, it's not. So it only took me like maybe an hour or so trying to work on it. Whereas everybody else was saying like, it took me 2 days. And I'm like, I demolished them. So, which I'll say this quick early plug. One of my recos is actually, if you're playing Elden Ring and you're struggling with finding the right build, I cannot recommend highly enough the Fextra Life YouTube channel. They have a ton of build videos on there. And I've tried at least 4 or 5 of the level 100 builds. They're all awesome. The one I stuck with was like, it's called a scorching glaive or scorching dual blade or something like that, where it took me all the way through to the end of the game. It's kind of a little OP, but for me at that point, I was like, I'm ready for this game to end. So yeah, I'm okay with it.
Scorching Glaive was my band in college.
There you go. Man, we were talking, it's funny you bring that. We were talking about something in like I was teaching in my physics class about frequencies and waves. And they said something in one of the videos that was like frequency distortion or something like that. And I was like, that'd be a good band name in college. But is what it is. But no, so Elden Ring is really, really good. I'm really enjoying it. It's a lot of fun. I will say the only time I hated the game was the mountaintop of the Giants area. It's just there's parts of the game where it feels like the damage scaling is really off. Like I was doing great all up until that point, and then once I got there, everything was killing me in 2 shots or less. And I'm like, what the heck? Like,
it seems like every game has that one area that just doesn't get it right. Like, yeah.
And that's definitely it. I was not a fan of that area at all. Everything after that, though, was great. For those who care, I'm just going to say like one of the boss names no one really knows. If you don't play, it's not really a spoiler, but for those who do know, I'll say that Malekith, the Black Blade, my favorite boss in the whole game. A lot of fun to fight, still tough, but just... and it's a cool fight, too, because it goes one way, and you think that's how it's going to be. And then phase 2 starts and it's something totally different. You're like, this is awesome. I love it. So all around
twist. So is Elden Ring your game of the year?
As of right now, yes. Okay. Like it's set the bar super high for a lot of other games because, and this is kind of the same thing that Breath of the Wild had going for it, was the map when you open it is completely bare, but as you explore, it starts putting things on the map and you can leave markers and things like that. So, and you can set waypoints too. It's so every time I played it, I always found myself getting completely distracted by exploring and then going back to some kind of mainline quest thing, which I heard several people complain online, like they don't know what to do after certain bosses or whatever. If you open your map and look at where your waypoints are, like your sites of grace are, there's usually trails of light that go off from them in a specific direction. Those are telling you where to go. So if you use that helps you get back on kind of the main path for the story and figuring stuff out. So I don't know if anybody who is just getting into it has not realized that yet, but in case you haven't, that is there for you. And plus Fextra Life, again, to plug them, we're not sponsored by them or anything. I just really love their content. They have an entire wiki on there with an interactive map. You can use that to help guide you as well. So yeah, they've literally found everything in the game at this point from what I can tell. And so if you need help getting back on the main quest and trying to figure out what to do next and how to do some side quest, Fextra Life's wiki will help you out in a major way. Yeah. As far as what else I've been playing, I'm not going to speak too long on this because I'm in a weird spot with this one. I started playing Horizon Forbidden West since I finished Elden Ring. And I'm about probably 4 or 5 hours into it. I got to be honest, I'm not feeling it. I'm really not feeling it. And it's weirding me out because I loved the first one to the point I got the platinum trophy and I loved that game to death. This one, I'm having a hard time getting into it. Now, I think I might be starting to get into it now that more of the story stuff has been revealed and there's been some pretty interesting surprises popped up. But yeah, I don't know. There's something off about it to where it's not hooking me like I thought it would. And part of the problem is I feel like the controls are not near as finely tuned as what they need to be. It's
interesting.
It's really kind of loosey-goosey.
A weird thing for a sequel.
Yeah. And I can't remember if the first one felt this way or not. I need to kind of download it, pop it up and fire it up. I don't know why I said the same thing 3 times, but I need to basically try and play the game and see if it's the same. But yeah, the controls are weird. I've had some weird glitches, like when I'm like climbing on different things, I'll jump, like press the jump button, but then I teleport to somewhere else in the area. And I'm like, what happened? Okay, that's weird. And then I've gotten stuck on like weird step things where it's like the step acts like I can't get around it. And so I have to basically go back and either jump over it or like go around it. It's really weird. The controls for this game they're just off. Like they need to be more finely tuned. So
Horizon Assassin's Creed is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's kind of what it feels like in some ways. And what's even weird is I'm playing this on performance mode in PS5. So you would think it would divert all the resources to making the game run as smoothly as possible.
Sure.
But it's still really weird in how it runs.
That's, man, first of all, I just got to say, and I know others have said this, but Horizon is the game franchise that cannot catch a break on release schedules. Dude, they come out, everyone was hype as all get out, like guns blazing. This is an amazing looking game. And then boom, Breath of the Wild steals its thunder entirely. Then Forbidden West, again, lots of hype, sequel, everyone loves the game. And then boom, Elden Ring. And it's like, dude, they cannot catch a break. So I feel bad for them on the one hand, but on the other, like, it seems like maybe this game is suffering from a lot of classic modern AAA problems where it's just games like Breath of the Wild and Elden Ring are breaking the mold of what an open world AAA game can be and like how to respect the player. And from what I'm hearing, it sounds like maybe Forbidden West is sticking to the safe path a little bit too much, maybe.
Yeah. I
don't know.
No, I can definitely agree with that. And I noticed what was funny is after I finished Elden Ring and started the game up and there was like all this stuff on the HUD, I'm like, no, get rid of this. I don't want this on here. Elden Ring spoiled me. I only want this up when I absolutely need it.
Gotta have a clean HUD.
Yeah, you got to have that. And then when I opened the map and saw how it was just littered with all these icons, I'm like, oh my gosh, I hate this. This is like Assassin's Creed and I don't like it.
Man.
And so, I mean, between that and then Aloy literally just saying, like, you guys remember when we did the Skyward Sword episode and you talked about how when you and Derek played Skyward Sword, Fee would come up and just ruin every puzzle.
Yep.
It's literally what Aloy does in this game. And
you're kidding me.
No, I wish I wasn't. Like, I literally was going through an area. And before I even started looking around to get a feel for the area I was in or the room I was in, she's like, oh, I bet if I climb up there, then I can get a better vantage point. And then I progressed even further. And she's like, oh, I need to use my grapple hook. And I'm like, for what? And I'd look around and it's like, oh, there's a crate over there. So it annoys the crap out of me. And I wish you could just turn off Aloy talking in the game like that, but you can't.
This is that respecting the player thing.
Yeah.
Like back to Tunic, I played the game for probably 4 hours and I was juggling all these items I'd collected and I had no idea what any of them did. I couldn't figure out how to make any of them function. And it was like, what the heck am I supposed to do with these? And I think game developers look at that and they think, oh, that's bad. We got to tell them or they're going to lose their enjoyment. But dude, when I read the manual and then I saw this thing over there and I looked at the item and I was like, oh, wait, what if it's that? And I went and tried it and it was that. And it changed everything. And I was like, dude, it was so satisfying to have figured that out after hours of there's such a huge difference there. And now it's like, now I want to explore everything. Like what other secrets are waiting for me, right? So yeah, the hand holding stuff, dude, that just makes me sad. It's a bummer.
And my thing is like, I don't even mind that it's really there because I know there's some folks who could really who like really appreciate that. But I wish there was a way that you could just toggle some of that stuff or limit it in a certain way to where it's like, I personally don't want that. I know someone else may be okay with that, but I don't want that, you know? And it's funny how it works. Cause like there's hints that in the game of like it being done right. Like I remember, because one of the new things in this game is having a glider, right? You know, again, pulling from Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
But I had forgotten all about it, right? So I was going through an area. I was like, what am I supposed to do? Where am I supposed to go? And Aloy goes, well, I'm up here. I bet I could use my glider to get down there. I'm like, oh, thank you for reminding me I have a glider now, which was fine. I appreciate that.
That's fair.
But then she went on to repeat it 5 times. I was up at a higher advantage. And I'm like, Aloy, come on. You already told me about the glider. You don't need to tell me again. It's just... So yeah, it's a weird transition going from Elden Ring, where it's like you figure this crap out on your own, read the item descriptions, put it together, figure it out. Right. And then this one being like, I'm going to hold your hand and literally shout at you everything you're supposed to get done before you even go in the room. It's like, I don't like it, man. It's weird having that juxtaposition there of those two completely different games. So
bummer.
Is what it is. I'm going to keep playing through it. And if it just gets to a point where I'm like, I'm just done, then I'll abandon it. But I do want to kind of keep exploring a little bit, seeing some of the story stuff through, because it has gotten a little interesting at this point, but I'm still just kind of like, I don't really care.
Yeah. I mean, the story was my all-time favorite element of the first one. So it sounds like great. Maybe it has potential here too, but yeah.
And I'm wondering how much of it is just like, I've played Elden Ring so much to the point where I'm kind of like, I need to go do something else for a couple weeks to kind of detox from it as like I don't mean it to be derogatory, but like I just need to kind of like refresh, decompress a little bit from that, and then maybe jump back into it and I'll think differently, but we'll see how that goes. We'll see how that goes. But speaking of decompressing and things that have nothing to do with it, let's get into the topic of the show, which is Sea of Thieves. And again, this is the year that we are getting our stuff together here at TRG, doing episodes on games or topics that we should have done a long time ago, and we're making it happen. And so let's get into the topic here, and kind of what we normally do with these episodes. We'll do a deep dive into the game, talk about a lot of different things, and normally we put up spoiler stuff, but with Sea of Thieves being... like there's some story stuff with the quests and those kind of things, but isn't really much to spoil. So I think you'll be okay. But unless you're like super mega ultra sensitive to spoilers, I don't even know why you're listening to the show at this point. So, it just is what it is. But let's go ahead and get into it. And let's start with a little bit of development history, going into some of the gameplay design and things like that. And one of the things with this game, fun fact in case you didn't know, is that this game was developed by Rare, which you may be familiar with. They did Banjo-Kazooie, they did GoldenEye, they did Jonathan's favorite game of all time, Donkey Kong 64.
DK64, heck yeah, baby.
There it is, man. So I know a lot of our listeners could definitely chat you up about that game, because we have some Donkey Kong 64 fans in the community. And the interesting thing about this game is, if you think about it, this game... the concept for it got put together in 2014, where Rare wanted to create a game where players could just create stories together inside of the game world, which when you think about Sea of Thieves and you play it today, that's really a lot of what's going on in the game. There's a joke going on about how, like with Monster Hunter or even Sea of Thieves, are like, there's not enough story or whatever, but then people will chime in with, the real story is the friends that we made along the way, or something like that.
Or the enemies.
Or the enemies, yeah. And that's really what Sea of Thieves and Monster Hunter, those kind of games are about. It's not so much about the story, it's about the journey and the adventures that you go on.
Right.
And so this game was influenced by a large variety of games, as they looked at games like DayZ, Rust, EVE Online, and kind of pulling some things in there. And they were even inspired by Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, which, if you guys are familiar with that game, definitely a lot of sea exploring in that game. And what's kind of funny is the studio director, Craig Duncan, described Sea of Thieves as the friendliest multiplayer game, which I mean, that really
That's
depends.
a word you could use. Yeah, sure.
That's a word you could use. It really depends on the night that you're playing and kind of what happens. That will determine if it's the friendliest multiplayer game or not. A lot of cool stuff. And this game was pretty popular, still is popular on many streaming platforms. And this game was announced in 2015 at E3. Duncan, again, describing the game as the most ambitious project that Rare has taken on. And this game was later released on, if I can find the date here, it's somewhere on this page that I'm looking at. So
2018, early 2018 was the release date. I forget the exact day. I think it was
March 20th.
Yeah,
March 20th, 2018, and then it later was released or patched for the Xbox Series XS on November 10th, 2020. So 2018 was the initial start, and the game kind of received some mixed to average reviews. A lot of sites citing, that the game had potential to be successful, but the game there just was not a whole lot of content to the game back in 2018. And so we'll kind of springboard off of there, because Sea of Thieves since 2018, it's not the same game in a lot of ways. Not. And so, Jonathan, I want to kick it to you, man, because you are literally one of the biggest Sea of Thieves fans, players that I personally know. And so with the game coming out in 2018 being sparse, not a whole lot to do, to how it is now here in 2022, what is that, like 4 years later, something like that? If I can do math right, which I hope I can because I teach math to high school students. Is that story true of Sea of Thieves still? Is it still a threadbare game, or has it changed radically?
Yeah, so Sea of Thieves is not a threadbare game anymore. I think it was at launch. There wasn't a ton to do, but Microsoft, and I've read that part of that reason was that Microsoft kind of pressured them into releasing it a little before it was ready, a little before it was fully baked. And that was a big part of that was they needed big releases, but the big thing was they needed a Game Pass headliner. Because Game Pass was that new service. And I remember when Game Pass came out, we were all kind of like, cool idea, but like, what's really on this thing? And Sea of Thieves was like, hey, this is the big game. So it got reportedly launched a little earlier than Rare would have liked, but who knows? Either way, it was pretty threadbare. And they slowly pushed out content updates, several months at a time. And, throughout 2019 kind of really tried to pump some life into it. But it was right around the end of 2019 and into 2020 where they started doing monthly updates. It might have been like mid to late 2019 where they said, all right, every single month we're pushing out new content. And that really started to bring life back into the game. And then at the beginning of 2021, they said, all right, now we're doing seasons. Which, everyone's doing seasons now, but if they're done right, I love when seasons come to live service games.
Kind of like what Apex, Destiny 2, Fortnite, all of those are doing.
And at first it was like, oh man, everyone's doing seasons. But, so far, a lot of people seem to be doing them well. And Sea of Thieves is one of those where it's like, this is good, regular, every 3 months we get something new. And then, of course, mid 2021, we get Pirates of the Caribbean crossover, which was crazy. Huge. They did it so well. Like it was well implemented. I don't know if I've been on the ride as a kid in Florida, like in Disney World, I've been on that ride, and the nostalgia, man, that comes back. Like if any of you out there are fans of the Pirates of the Caribbean ride and you're not necessarily into Sea of Thieves and you have a way to like boot the game up and try it out, just go play the first episode of Pirates of the Caribbean. It's like reliving the ride. They have some of the same sound effects from the original ride. Whenever they needed to record new sound effects, they went to the Disney art like warehouses and pulled the old microphones out of the boxes from the 60s and used those old mics to record the new sound so it sounded old. So anyway,
I'm just impressed they still had the mics.
I know, right? I mean, that's Disney for you. Anyway, I'm getting off track a little bit. But then after Pirates of the Caribbean, which was a huge success, brought a ton of new players back, they continued with seasons into this year where now not only are they continuing into season 6 and 7 and beyond, but every single month within those seasons, there's an additional content update. So it's like every month out of the year, we get something new. And then every 3 of those months, we get a big season push. So it's like they're pouring new content into this game now. And so now it's like the peak time to get in because there's more options than ever. And they've also, like one of the big complaints that's fairly levied at Sea of Thieves is if you want to get in and have a decent play session, you got to play for like 3 hours.
Yeah.
There is no pop in, play, and pop out. Like it doesn't work that way.
Right.
Until now, with season 6, they've released forts, like Spanish sea forts, where you can like log in, sail to a fort, clear it out, get the loot, and sail back in under an hour and be off. And so it's like,
nice.
And I wouldn't be surprised to see them add more content like that. So not only is there more content, but the variety is greater, where depending on how you want to play, the variety is there for you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're nailing it, I'd say.
And that's something I love about it. I've dipped in to Sea of Thieves here and there from when it launched to, I think like a year or two after that. And then even, I think like back in 2020 was even getting into it. So I've dipped in and out, in between them adding a lot of the stuff. And it's been really interesting to see how the game has changed from how it was at launch to where I was like, I'm not really feeling it. There's not much to do, to now it's like, hold up, there's forts that I can complete in under an hour and I can just do them by myself. That's perfect. That's what I wish this game had a few years ago. And so it's awesome to see them pour into this game and really flesh it out and really kind of expand it even more. And it's funny because this is kind of coming at a time that a similar thing is happening with Destiny 2 to a degree, where Destiny 2 is kind of in its prime right now with storytelling and the matchmaking and a lot of the different events that are going on. And now Sea of Thieves is in that same thing, where Sea of Thieves is in its prime, where it's like, if you've never played it before, now is the time to jump in to that game, especially with it being on GamePass. I mean, there's really no excuse if you're a Game Pass subscriber. So I'm sure there's people that are probably listening to this that trying to figure out, okay, what is Sea of Thieves? What is this game even about? So Jonathan, like what is Sea of Thieves? I guess, what is the main draw of it, and what do you do in this game besides be a pirate?
It's interesting because I feel like a misconception around what you get out of playing Sea of Thieves is pretty common, because people think, and we're used to video games kind of allowing us to go on a power trip a little bit, even the online multiplayer ones, where it's like, yeah, you can get wiped out in an online shooter, but ultimately most games, it's like you go in, you're really strong, and whatever you have to overcome is doable. Sea of Thieves is a little different in that you can spend an hour or two gathering loot and then run across another player and get absolutely destroyed, because the complexity of, you're not just shooting guns at each other, you're also sailing and repairing a ship and dealing with naval combat. And it's all very, it's pretty complex. And so there's a lot of things to learn. And so you're going to spend a lot of time getting wrecked. And in a multiplayer shooter, when you get killed in a match, you just respawn and come back. Or even in Fortnite or something, or Apex, you just go back and start a new round. But in Sea of Thieves, like, you'll lose a long time worth of progress. And so going in ready to lose is one aspect. But the other thing is that makes Sea of Thieves such a powerful and a potent combo of gameplay ideas, and such a unique standout from other online multiplayer games is you have a lot of online games like, say, Elder Scrolls Online, or a lot of MMOs they offer PvP content and PvE content, and you kind of pick the one you want to do, right? So if I go play ESO, I can log in and just do the PvE and go through stories and quests, or I can say, you know what, I want to play against other players. Let's jump into PvP, and if I get wrecked and I get tired of it, I'll go back to PvE. Well, Sea of Thieves says, no, we're going to marry those together and make them inseparable. We're going to have PvPvE all the time. And so if you want to go and, search out a key and go, loot a vault and bring the loot back, you can do that anytime. But at every point during that journey, the threat of PvP looms. And the exciting thing about that is you can also meet up with another ship and be friendly, as long as they're friendly back. And you can sail and go on an adventure together and double the amount of loot you can get. You can even like join into an alliance and then sail in two different directions, and you both benefit from the loot you turn in on your separate adventures, as long as you're in an alliance. So there's lots of ways to be friendly. What that means is that, so if I'm playing Halo, right, and I run into another player in a multiplayer match, I know for a fact what they want. They want to kill me, like hands down every time. You know when you see another player what to expect. In Sea of Thieves, when you see that ship on the horizon, you have no idea what they actually want. You don't know if they want to befriend you. You don't know if they want to kill you immediately. You don't know if they want to pretend to be friendly and then betray you later and take your stuff. And that adds a constant, ever-present, real tension that is just not attainable if people say, well, you just make PvE servers. Give me servers where I can just go loot stuff and people will leave me alone. And it's like, you know what? That would get boring really fast. Yeah, you turn your loot in, but there'd be no threat of danger. The skeletons and things you fight in the game aren't really challenging. Right. And so that the developers, I love it when a developer has a vision and is like, you know what? We hear you, but this is the vision for the game. This is what it needs to be. And that's empowered even more by their whole kind of game, the game design philosophy. They call it tools, not rules. It's a very Breath of the Wild approach where, hey, here's a set of tools. Here's a few things you can do. Go do whatever you want with it. Instead of like the Assassin's Creed approach of like waypoints and a lot very guided gameplay. It's like it's open ended. Do whatever you want. We were talking earlier about like a super minimal HUD, like minimal HUD, like very little on the screen, and they've just found this marrying of ideas like that makes for an experience that if you go in with the right mindset, expecting that, hey, I might lose everything after 3 hours of work and I'll still have a good time. It was about the experience, not about the loot I turned in. Right. You can have some great stories come out of gameplay sessions in Sea of Thieves. You really can.
Yeah. And that's something that I really love about that game is that, and this may not be a game for everyone, but I think those who try this game out and really get that kind of philosophy and understand it and get into it, it's for me, it's unlike anything I've really ever played. And it's just so much fun because I like that. I personally, when I first started playing the game and I knew that it was like PvE, whatever, how the thing is, I thought I'd hate it. And to a degree I do. Like there's times where it's like, I'll be doing like a quest or something. I'll have a bunch of loot on my ship. And then all of a sudden, a group of like 3 other players come in and then overrun me and take my stuff and then sink my ship. It's like, that sucks. But I love that that's a possibility that can happen because a lot of times when another player comes in, you don't know if they're better than you or not because you all have the same weapons. There's that's something I love about this game too. And I forgot to mention it during the development thing was that it was something that they did with this game was, they noticed that in a lot of those multiplayer games or MMOs, people would grind the end game content, but they were like, well, we don't want to have to deal with new players coming in, trying to play with their friends and then trying to scale them up to that. Let's just give everyone the same guns, everyone the same sword. They all do the same damage, but you can change the cosmetics if you want to through the shop or getting them through the game or something like that. So that way, when people jump in and it's their first time and they're playing with their friends who've been playing this for 200 hours, they can play together and it's not an issue. And that's what I like about the game is that you're all on the same level playing field. Sure, there's some people who probably know how to use the weapons a little bit better than you, but that still doesn't mean that you are at a disadvantage to a degree because there's been a few times where, I've gotten somewhat good with the sniper rifle now to where if we're moving on the ship, I can kind of like map out in my head, like, okay, we're moving this way. If I'm moving the gun over here and if I set it right here, it should hit them by the time that we're going by. And most of the time now I'm nailing my shots. This is the only game I'm decent at sniping in. Call of Duty, everything else, I'm terrible. Don't even ask me to be part of your squad.
You would have been an amazing sniper in the 1700s.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No reticle or nothing. That would have been great. Oh man, if only they could have had me. But it's that thing of like, it's that constant threat of danger that where it's like, you never really know what you're going to get that makes it so much more fun, at least from my perspective. Anytime I've played it, I've really enjoyed it. And there's been times where, I'm one guy and I've overtaken someone else's ship and stole some of their stuff and then made away on my ship. It's like, just because you're playing by yourself doesn't automatically mean that if another group comes along and tries to, mess with you, that you're going to lose all the time because they could be terrible shots and they don't know what they're doing. Right.
So, it's crazy because I feel like probably most people listening to this podcast will recall the time around Breath of the Wild's release. And I know it's my favorite game. I reference it a lot, but it does apply here.
Mr. 1,000 hours or however long you put in that game.
I think I'm just shy of 700 hours in that game.
Oh, that's wild, dude.
It's obscene. Part of my excuse is I played with my kid a lot. So that's, anyway.
Okay.
So the conversation around that game was various versions of, oh my gosh, I like ran over to this area and I pulled out my bomb and it blew up this guy, but then it caught this thing on fire and then it, wiped out. And like it's all these crazy stories of like, I didn't know you could do that in this game. You did that and you found this area and you combine these things together. And it just stories exploded out of the game because it was a sandbox tool set you could do anything with. And it was super exciting. Sea of Thieves is all that with multiple people involved. And so you get situations like one of my favorite recent stories that happened to me personally was I came up to this guy and he wanted an alliance, but he was acting super shady. And I was like, I don't know, man. Like, I'm not sure I trust him, but I was sailing with a buddy of mine and he was like, let's trust him. Let's go for it. And then, if he stabs us in the back, we'll get him. So we're like, all right, man, sounds good. And he was like talking in this piratey voice the whole time. Like, come on, and like alliance with me and we'll get the booty together, And so I was like, all right, dude, let's do this thing. So like we alliance with him and then he's like, I'll see you later, mateys. And he sails off. Right. So I was like, all right, watch him on the map. And if he sneaks up on us, like we got to get him. So we spin the game, doing our own thing. We're checking our map. He stays away. We're like, okay, we're good. Then we decide to end it. And like, we have a ship full of loot. We had a pretty decent haul. We sail back to an outpost and he was far away. So we're like, all right, he's probably not going to backstab us. We're good. He wasn't super far away, but it was safe. It was safe enough.
Sure.
We start unloading our loot and it's taken us a while because we had a lot of stuff and we're unloading. Then some other sloop comes in and starts like just blowing us to pieces. So we're like, we're getting on our ship, we're fighting back, I'm bailing, and it's like we're sinking. It's like, oh dude, we're gonna lose this loot. All of a sudden in my headphone I hear, "Yar, no one treats my alliance buddies that way." And this other dude in our alliance sails in out of nowhere and just wipes out this sloop. And we were dying. Like it was so perfect. And he was really good. He destroyed him and he was like, "Are you good, mateys?" And we're like, "We're good, man. Thanks." Like, "All right, safe sailing to you." And he just sails off again. And so it's stuff like that where you just don't know who to trust. And sometimes you get wrecked, but then sometimes you make that amazing alliance and these crazy things happen. And so the game, because it depends so heavily on that player interaction, yes, that means that you're taking the risk of it going poorly, but that means that eventually you're going to have an incredible story like that. And I mean, it was one of my favorite moments I've ever had in the game. It was so great.
That's awesome. And it's funny because, we kind of joked about this a little bit earlier, with the director saying that this game is the friendliest multiplayer game. And we're like, it kind of depends on who you run into. And that's a perfect example of like, it depends on who you run into. You ran into the pirate from the opening of SpongeBob SquarePants and he came in to help you out towards the end. And it's just one of those moments where it's like, this game is so rad because of that. And I think that's kind of the case for just about any multiplayer game. Really, it depends on the kind of people you meet. And sometimes you meet some really rad people. Other times you meet total trolls and you're like, man, I don't want to play this game ever again. But, you're going to log back in the next day to give it a go. And so, I mean, you do come away with some pretty dope stories. I still remember that time that I played with you and your brothers and we were goofing off. And it seemed like everything that could possibly go wrong during a play session did, because wasn't it like two krakens, like the squid things that attacked the ship?
Kraken, yep. Well, I mean, to start with, I loaded up our galleon with all these supplies before we got started. And then we were playing with my two little brothers, and one of my brothers was like, "See you later, guys," and just like he lifted anchor without us and just sailed the ship off. And I was like, dude, like he'd never played the game before. And I was like, do you know how to steer? He's like, no, I don't know what I'm doing. Wrecked the ship into an island and stunk it. And we're like, dude, we just stocked it up with supply. And so then we went sailing with our new ship with no supplies. And like, we were hosed from the start. I think we locked in the brig. I don't know. It was hilarious. The thing was, we were all laughing. Like it was a good time, even though everything went wrong.
Right. Yeah. And that's kind of the fun thing about the game is it's one that really, if you go into this game taking it seriously, you're probably not going to have a good time. You got to go into it and just not take it seriously. Just go and be like, okay, I'm going to have a good time. I'm going to relax. We're going to do some fun things. and that's it, right? Obviously, if you're going to play something like Call of Duty, definitely you're probably going to take it more seriously than most people, right? But in this one, it's like I think you told me this, is that one of the mindsets you have to get into when you play this game is don't get attached to your loot.
Right. It is not about the loot.
Yeah, and I think really when you go back to the philosophy of this game and how they built it, like, yeah, you want to get cosmetics, you want to upgrade your ship and make it look cool, and do those different things. But that's not really what the game is about. The game is about exploring, trying things out, seeing what's in the world, and hopefully getting some friends to come play with you, or meeting some new friends or enemies along the way, and almost kind of building out your own pirate legend, so to speak, which I know to some people might not sound that appealing, but it's really one of those games you kind of have to almost play for yourself and see kind of what it's all about to really understand it. Is that a fair assessment?
It is. And it isn't for everyone. Some people are going to play this game and they're like, I hear what you're saying about the loot thing, but like, I just get angry every time. And it's like, maybe it's not for you then. Right. I've gotten angry when I lost my loot at the beginning, but I love the vibe of the game so much that I kept pushing through. And I mean, first of all, for me personally, I am infatuated with beaches, tropical settings, with pirate history in general. Like, the game hits a lot of things for me that are just personal favorite things. So for me, like, some people may not care about a pirate theme, right? So maybe it's not for you. But if you're that kind of person that enjoys the vibe of that game, what makes the interactions so organic and so powerful is that the game forces you to put everything on the line. With a lot of games, when you are interacting with other players, you don't really stand to lose anything other than pride in a firefight, right? When you lose a match in Apex, you don't get things taken away from you. You just die and start over. In Sea of Thieves, all the work you did is gone unless you turn your loot in. Once the gold's in your pocket, you can't get it taken away. But because it makes you put something on the line and raise the stakes, that makes all the involved players fighting each other really be fighting for like what they have. And it just changes. It changes kind of the mindset. And so if you can, there's this kind of joke that people say all the time, like, oh, maybe it was really all about the friends we made along the way. Ha ha ha. And it's like, but see if these actually is that. It really is about the friends or enemies you make along the way and the stories that come out of it. Like, that's why you log in to play.
Yeah. And it's funny that I'm kind of listening, as I'm sitting here listening to you talk about how you're saying that the game makes you put stuff on the line as you play it. It kind of makes me think of another game that does a similar concept, which is Elden Ring, which is a game I can't shut up about. And it does a similar thing. When you go into a boss room, you have to check how many runes you have, because like, if you've got a fat stack of runes, you probably need to go bank those and upgrade your weapons or do something, because you don't want to go in there with a whole bunch. But if you can't level up, you don't have stuff to upgrade your weapons, right? You're gambling a little bit, especially if it's a boss you haven't encountered before. You're like, you better go in and be on your A game, because you don't know what to expect. And I think to a degree, Sea of Thieves is probably a little less stressful than what Elden Ring is.
Probably.
But I guess for different reasons, though. But either way, there's still that level of risk involved. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, maybe that's kind of why I'm digging Sea of Thieves a little bit, because there is that risk involved. You never really know what you're going to get out of your play session. It's different when I play something like Destiny 2. I know what I'm going to get out of it. I'm going to go play the Strike playlist. I'm going to get a couple upgrades, and that's it. That's all I'm going to get. Sea of Thieves, it's like, I don't know what I'm going to get. I might find a whole new cave. I might find a cave full of treasure and then someone's going to steal it. Or I might stumble across someone and manage to sneak onto their ship and steal their ship and do some crazy things with it. You never know what you're going to get. And there's that level of freedom that it's present in other games to a degree, but I feel like it's on a whole other level in Sea of Thieves. I don't know if that's a fair assessment or not.
I think so. And again, it's because I think the key ingredient that's so important is because you don't know the intent of everyone around you. You can't read people. And so you just have to guess. And so the whole time you're sailing with someone, you're like, is he about to kill me?
Yeah.
Like, is he about to, or is this going to go fine and we're friends and we're good? Usually you can tell. Usually if someone's being a snake, you can, all right, he's being weird. Let's watch our backs. But I've had situations where I was like, oh, this guy's awesome. And then he just wipes me out an hour later. It's like, oh, I guess he was, and, there's so many, or there's times when you find someone honest, and then the both of you, I've had people sail up to me like, this dude just wrecked me, I want to get him back, come help me. And it's like, okay, let's go. And so we team up and we go get him, right? So you just, it opens up that unknowable aspect of that human interaction, opens up this Pandora's box of possible stories that can come out of your experience. And it's a very rich world they've built. And it just, the type of things you do in the game from a PvE standpoint serve that well. The way you sail from island to island looking for loot or skulls or ship battles or whatever it is. And then as you're doing all that, you run into other players doing stuff too, and then you fight. Like it all just melds together very nicely, what they've done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So at this point, we've talked a lot about the game and kind of what you'll experience, but like let's talk a little bit about how the game even works. Like, do you level up? Do you make your character? Let's kind of talk about that a little bit. And first of all, I mean, you do start the game off where you do make your own pirate, and then you go through the game, and the currency you get, you unlock different outfits. And so you can change the look of your pirate to, having a hook if you want, to getting a parrot companion, dog, monkey, a lot of those different things. Those are fun to get, especially launching them out of the cannons. Yes, I did say you can launch them out of cannons, especially your friends too. You can do that as well. That's a fun way to attack ships. But from there, man, once you make your character and you get a little bit of money, what are some of the things that people can look forward to in this game besides maybe being attacked by another player?
So the main, if you're talking from a purely video gamey reward system, the game is a purely cosmetic game, which I love. And you touched on it earlier, like there is no leveling system, there's no better gun out there, right. there's no stronger, faster sword. Everyone's on the same playing field all the time. You just have different cosmetics, right? And that is definitely a draw. If you are the kind of person that wants to unlock all the cosmetics, that's awesome. You can do that. There are some challenging events to complete in the game that reward you cosmetics for completing them. And some of those can take weeks to do. They're very challenging.
Right.
And so there's certain cosmetics that you put them on, and what that says to everyone is you were able to do this thing, and everyone knows it, right? So
what a concept.
Yeah. There's a mark of pride. A lot of games certainly have that, but there's a lot of stuff that's like, hey, I earned this ship sail, I earned this curse from my pirate, whatever, I did this, and it's kind of a mark of pride. And then there's the cosmetics you can just buy in the store too, and it's but other than that, there is kind of an initial goal called Pirate Legend, which is a status you can achieve. That's sort of every new player's main goal. As a matter of fact, I've been playing on and off since November of 2019, and I just hit Pirate Legend last month, if that tells you anything. Wow. So now, I would turn the game off for months at a time, so I could have gotten it faster. But there are factions in the game that you can complete quests for. For the gold hoarders, you can go dig up treasure. And the way they do that, by the way, is so organic. And this is the only one I'll expound on. It's the most popular one. But basically, in other games, if it's like, hey, go dig up this treasure, it just puts a waypoint on your map. You sail to it and you go get it, right? In this game, it's like, here's the name of an island, and there's treasure on there at this red X. Go figure it out. And you have to pull up your map and find the island and find your location and use, okay, that's west of here. So you take out your compass. All right, west is that way. You sail over there. And then like you're on the island holding the map, and it's like, okay, there's that tree that I see on the map, and there's that rock. It looks like the X is somewhat south of that. And you're looking at a literal map, and you're looking at the world around you, trying to figure out where things are. It's a very organic, real life feeling kind of experience. And the whole game is that way. Everything you do in the game is that way. Everything is quite realistic feeling, not video gamey at all. Anyway, so there's the gold hoarders you can dig up treasure for. And as you level up with them, you can get increasingly more rewarding quests that turn in more loot, that give you more loot and more access to more cosmetics. Then there's the Order of Souls, and they have you hunt down skeleton lords and skeleton ships and other things, and turn in these magical skulls for money and for renown. And then there's the Merchant Alliance, and they have you delivering things like a kind of like a delivery, like a cargo deliveries across the seas. And they also have these things called lost shipments, which are fun, where they had a giant like cargo ship delivering stuff that sank halfway, to its destination. And you have to sail around and follow clues and figure out where it sank, find the key, go down there and unload the cargo hold and like sell it all. And then there's a Reapers faction, and where you hunt down other player ships, and there's different factions. And so if you can get up to level 50, in 3 of those factions, then you hit Pirate Legend. And that gives you access to a special hideout, to special cosmetics. And as of just the other day, they literally just released this, I think yesterday. Now there's an exclusive quest you can go on. Well, there were some exclusive, like really simple quests that weren't anything particularly special, but now there's a whole like storyline for Pirate Legends only to access that I haven't even played yet, but it looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
So there's kind of a little bit of a marker of pride. Like if you're Pirate Legend, you've clearly played the game for a while, you've done a lot of stuff, and you have access to all the best stuff the game has to offer. But really, that's more of a kind of a temporary carrot on a stick just to get you into the gameplay. And once most people hit Pirate Legend, usually they've realized by that point, you know what? This really isn't the point of the game. The point of the game is the experience and the players and the, you know, all those stories. So
yeah, right on, man. So I think as we kind of start winding down on the topic here on this, I think this is going to, hopefully it piques some interest in some curious players, but also it gives people an idea kind of like what the game is even about. And so let's kind of start laying the plane with this one is like, if there's someone who's listening to this episode and like, man, I want to get into Sea of Thieves, but I don't know where to start. What do I do? What would you recommend for them?
The main thing I would say, and this may turn some people off, and that's okay. I would not recommend beginning your adventure in Sea of Thieves solo. There's a lot of folks out there that maybe don't have a lot of friends to play with, or it's hard to get friends together. I'm like that. I'm one of those people where it's tough to find the time, especially as a dad, like to get folks together, especially for a 3-hour play session. Right. Yeah. So, but if you can help it, you may jump in solo and do great. I did. I figured it out. It's fine. But playing Sea of Thieves solo is, excuse me, is extremely challenging. It's really tough. You're probably going to get wiped out. There's a lot to manage on your own. So if you can find a buddy, I'd recommend that, especially maybe someone who's played the game before. But even if they haven't, try to play with someone if you can. And other than that, just really just try to organically explore the game and do some quests and just sort of figure things out as you go. Don't wiki everything at the beginning. A lot of it is about the discovery. But that's probably my main recommendation. If you want to dive in, like see if you can do it with a buddy, at least for the first few sessions to kind of feel out if this is a game for you.
Yeah. And I'll even throw this in here as a bit of a shameless plug for the TRG Discord. But like if you're jumping in, I mean, hop into the TRG Discord, there's a role request channel. So if you just hit the one for Sea of Thieves, it automatically adds that role to you in the Discord server. So you can ping other Sea of Thieves players in the server and be like, hey, cool. I just started. Can I get some help with something? And you may get someone on there. Cause again, there's a lot of people in the server who are also parents, so it might not be right away. But there's also a lot of other players who, are playing in Australia, playing in different time zones. So, I mean, there's a high probability, a high chance that you'll group up with someone and be able to play with, especially with me looking to get back into it because I'm kind of getting tired of the whole Destiny 2 grind. I want to play something that like doesn't really require a grind, something a little more laid back. So, I mean, I'll even try to get on there. So yeah, definitely join up the server, join up. Wow. Words are hard. Join up the TRG server, get the role for Sea of Thieves and ping those players in the server, and we'll see if we can get a crew going. But yeah, man, as we close out this section on Sea of Thieves, very introductory, cursory kind of look at the game and talking a little bit about what you can expect from the game and hopefully sharing some tips. I guess let me just end with this. What makes Sea of Thieves a game that keeps you coming back to it? What is it about it that makes you want to play it? Apart from the pirate theme.
That's funny. I was going to mention that first. I'll say just as kind of a surface thing, I would be happy if all video games looked like Sea of Thieves looks. That art style, that kind of adult Pixar where it feels real, but it's definitely still kind of cartoony and colorful. Love that look. So a lot of people talk about, I just love existing in that game world. A lot of people talk about that way about Skyrim or maybe Animal Crossing. I just love being in the world, like hanging out. I feel that way about Sea of Thieves. But I think what keeps me coming back is the sheer unexpected nature of you log in and it's like, I have no idea what's going to happen when I set sail. And sometimes it's kind of boring. Sometimes everything goes to plan perfectly. And I got to say, those are like the least memorable ones, ironically, where it's like I sail here and I get this thing and then I go over here and I get some more and I come back and I turn it in and I made a bunch of gold and nothing happened. Like no one attacked me. Like everything went just fine. But it's those times when everything goes wrong and, you know, you just get hilarious stories. It's that unexpected nature of, and it's just a satisfying, it is a satisfying feeling to go get a bunch of loot and then get attacked, but then you get out of it and you survive and maybe you sink him or maybe you get away and you actually end up turning it in. And it's like, oh, dude, we made it. Like we actually made it out with our loot and turned it all in. And that's satisfying too. And, you know, there's still a lot of story type quests in the game. I didn't even mention them. They're called Tall Tales. And of course, there's the Pirates of the Caribbean stories where you're following a storyline. It's not just like go do the quest and come back with a loot. Like there's a ton of stuff they're adding, and they're still adding more still, that it's all story driven stuff where there's mysteries and there's characters and there's stories unfolding that are a compelling reason to come back in their own right, that have nothing to do with player interaction. So there's so much variety, and you can log in and kind of say, you know, what am I in the mood for today? Do I want to go digging up treasure? Do I want to dive down to the depths and do some of the underwater coral shrines that they've added, like a Zelda puzzle? Do I want to do a story? Do I want to go attack somebody? Like there's a wide variety of things to do, and at any moment, any of those things could go belly up on you and just become chaos. And so it's just an exciting game to log into, plain and simple.
Yeah. Absolutely. I would agree. It's one game that I do think about often, and I miss kind of being in that world and checking some things out and just seeing what awaits for me on those open waters. And so, dear listeners, if you are listening to this or watching this over on YouTube and you're wanting to get into the game yourself, maybe see what it's all about, and you've got Game Pass, like I said, TRG Discord, hop on over and get the Sea of Thieves role and then ping those Sea of Thieves players in the server, and let's get a crew going. And let's see kind of what we can discover together, and maybe whose treasure we could steal together.
Betrayal within the Discord?
Yes. Ooh, you'll never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy than the TRG Discord. We always joke about that, sorry, a little side note. We joke about that in the Discord from time to time about how, like, you know, TRG is kind of like a Christian run sort of thing. You know, you don't have to be a Christian to be a part of it, but it's like, it's funny that we Christians aren't supposed to be about Discord, and now we have a main thing on the Discord server, you know, so it's like, and then we're playing Sea of Thieves and stealing loot. It's like, yeah, we're a great model for Christians everywhere.
There needs to be a Christian like chat service called Accord.
There you go.
They're all in one accord.
Let's not start that. That's a little too cringe.
Oh no, that's the point. All right.
No, I don't like it.
That's a great April Fool's joke right there.
Oh man,
join our Christian Accord server.
Where were you when I needed you when I was tweeting stuff out for TRG on April Fool's? Man, I should have done that. That would have been perfect.
Introducing TRG Accord.
Oh, that would have been so good.
Next year.
That would have been so good. Well, dear listeners, speaking of Accord, if you like what we're doing here, you can support us over on Patreon, patreon.com/thereformedgamers. Support as low as $1 a month gets you uncut and early access to episodes like this one that took multiple nights to record because of technical issues, and it was a lot of fun. So if you are a supporter over on Patreon, you got to hear all the goofs, all the unedits and everything. And boy, was this episode a ride to record. So you get to hear that, and then you get behind the scenes stuff and more. I actually just put up an episode of me and my wife talking about our gaming pet peeves. That's only available to $5 and up patrons. So you can go listen to that over there. But before we let you go, some recos. Jonathan, man, what are some things that the dear listeners should check out besides your Twitch channel, TikTok, YouTube, all that jazz that will be linked in the show notes?
So I will do my one quick plug. I am now streaming on Twitch at twitch.tv/ParrotMode. If you have any interest in kind of watching what I play, come hang out, come check me out. You can also find me on Twitter at ParrotMode TV. But other than that, I know I already gushed about it at the top of the show, but Tunic, it's on Game Pass, it's on Xbox. If you get a chance, at least play it, try it out. It's so great. It's so full of mystery. It's a beautiful game. I recommend it. I'm having a lot of fun with it. And then my other reco is actually a piece of hardware. You may have heard of it. It's called the Backbone One. It is a video game controller that attaches to your smartphone, and it can do iPhone or Android.
Okay.
And it kind of actually, if you don't mind, I'm going to grab it real quick. It's right.
Yeah. It's just right there in the back of the shelf.
For those of you watching on video, this is the Backbone 1. And it is Xbox, like it's Xbox endorsed, I guess is the word. So it has all the right, XABY, whatever. XABY. Why did I say it that way?
It's weird, dude.
And so you can see it can adjust to fit however big a phone you have and spring back. And it's got a little connector there. So you put your phone in sideways, you connect it. You can play xCloud with it. You can play iPhone games. You can play, Xbox Remote Play, PlayStation Remote Play, whatever type of gaming you might do in a smartphone. It does it really well. I've tried it with a variety of games, but I will say this: the thing that's impressed me the most is that xCloud on iOS, which has always been a pretty spotty way to play xCloud, it works so much better with the Backbone. I'm able to do like precision, like Tunic is a very Dark Soulsy precision fighting kind of game. I've played some Tunic with the Backbone on my iPhone using xCloud, which runs through a browser on the iPhone, and it was virtually flawless. I detected no lag at all, which is astonishing because when I connect a Bluetooth controller, it's enough lag to make it a problem. But with this Backbone, I was like, dude, xCloud. And again, xCloud isn't perfect. Sometimes it starts to glitch out, and that's just xCloud.
Yeah.
But man, it's $100, so it's a little on the pricey end. But if you're looking for a way to play your phone like a Switch and get some Xbox gaming or some iPhone gaming in there, it's a good controller. And hot take, these are more comfortable to hold and play with than Switch Joy-Cons.
Oh, wow.
Sure. They're a little bit rounder and beefier, and they feel good in your hands. And it's actually, I wish the Joy-Cons were shaped this way. It's really nice.
Oh, wow. Well, there you go, dear listeners. Yeah, I always see those pop up every now and then, like on Twitter, like it'll be like a deal of a day somewhere, or Kinja Deals will tweet something out like, hey, you can get this for your phone or whatever. Yeah. And it's always hard to kind of pick out which one, but that sounds pretty good. I don't really game a whole lot on my phone, but with the Pixel remasters of Final Fantasy being out, I could see me putting a lot of time into those games on my phone. So I might look into that.
Well, and it has an app. It's the Backbone 1 app. And from that app, it hot links you out to other games. So you can there's a Backbone button on here. You put this on your phone and hit this orange Backbone button, and it opens the Backbone app. And then you can scroll through the games you have and select one, and then it takes you out to that game. Now, it doesn't connect to xCloud because xCloud is a browser-based thing.
Right.
Any other kind of game. And it also has all these advanced settings in there where you can remap buttons, but also it has a mode you can enable where as soon as you connect this thing, it disables your other notifications. So while you're playing, your phone leaves you alone. Then you unplug it and it all comes back on. So there's little things like that where they're really thinking about the gamer. And there's a lot of customization, and it's just really pleasant to use.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
So, yeah.
Well, dear listeners, I'll have a link to that in your show notes along with Tunic, as well as some of my recos. For those of you that are either getting into Elden Ring for the first time, or maybe you've been playing Elden Ring for 20, 30, 120 hours. I don't know however long you've been playing it. And you are just struggling to find the right build. Like you feel like you've got a good handle on your build, but you feel like something's off about it. You feel like you want to try something a little bit differently. I would recommend you go to Fextra Life's YouTube channel and check out their Elden Ring build videos. I have a link to their playlist in your show notes, and just look through that. They have builds for when you're first starting out in the game, builds for when you hit level 50, builds for when you hit level 100, builds for when you hit level 150. Now they just started putting those up, and the two that they put up so far are redonkulous looking. There's a Dark Knight build that I am looking forward to trying out because it's just... It looks absolutely insane. You wield two swords, you buff it with this magic attack, you send these fiery skulls out. It looks really, really cool. So I'm looking forward to trying that out. But I've used, I'm trying to think, like 4, 5, because I've done 2 characters. I'm working on my second character now. I think I've done like 4 or 5 of their builds so far that they put on their video, and they're all spectacular. My favorite one is the what is it? It's like the scorching blade or scorching dual blade build. It's the one that I used to beat the game with on Xbox. It's stupid OP. It's so good. But I would highly recommend you checking that out, especially if you're new to the series of Soulsborne and you don't really know how to build out your characters and you're trying to figure that out. Go there, watch a few of their videos, get some ideas, and go from there. It's super helpful. Really appreciate their stuff. And they have a great wiki page with an interactive map. So if you're looking for a particular item and you don't know where it is, go to the wiki, go pull up the interactive map, find the item, and it'll tell you where to go and how to get it. Makes it super easy on trying to get some of those things. Really good content. The other thing that I'm going to Reco, and I specifically chose this episode to Reco it because Jonathan is one of the few people who have been trying to get me to read the Stormlight archive books for the last 4, 5, 6 years or so, a really long time now.
Maybe not quite that long, but a few years.
It's been a while. I know that. And I finally started reading The Way of Kings? Way of Kings book. It's the first one in the series. I am almost 40% of the way into the book now. And oh my goodness, so good. So good. I actually want to do a YouTube video on it about how Trails in the Sky FC got me to appreciate this book. And man, it's good. If you're familiar with Brandon Sanderson's work, it's just that cranked up to 11. It is a slow burn, but so here's the two things that I was apprehensive about with this book. One, it's over 1,000 pages. I think it's a little over 1,000 pages. And people were telling me that it's a slow burn. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to like it. I'm in the book like over 350 plus pages now. And I'm like, this is amazing. Like it is a slow burn, but there's cool things that happen where it's building. You can feel it's building up to something big. But it has stuff that's peppered throughout the way that it's just like, this is stinking dope. This is fascinating. This is interesting. And if you do decide to read it, don't just try to speed read it. Don't just gloss over.
Soak it in.
I have read several parts where I've had to stop and go, hold up, wait a minute. I go back and reread it. I'm like, interesting, because you can see how Brandon Sanderson kind of leaves you little breadcrumbs, like little facts about the world or little facts about the characters or how they react to things, and you pick up on this and you're like, oh, okay, I kind of see where you're going with this a little bit. Okay, I see what you're doing. Yeah. And so it's masterful writing. Man, it's really good. So I would highly recommend y'all check that out and just give it a whirl. I know 1,000-page book doesn't sound that enticing, but if you're going to spend 100 plus hours playing Elden Ring, you've got time to read a 1,000-page book. I don't want to hear it from you.
Well, the thing about it too is what I always tell people when they say, like, because I listen to the audiobooks, right? And the audiobook for The Way of Kings is 45 hours long. And it's actually the shortest book in the series. And people look at me like I'm insane when I say that. And I'm like, you know what? It is 45 hours long. That's a long time, but none of it's wasted. None of it feels like, oh man, we're really wasting time here. The book definitely has like slower moments and more intense moments, but it's all Brandon Sanderson is so good at like trimming the fat and making sure that everything he writes has a purpose. And it's not just meandering conversation for no reason. It all means a lot. And The Way of Kings, like it has like a prelude from one perspective, and then it shifts perspectives and does a prologue, and then it shifts perspectives again for chapter 1. And then at the beginning of the book, in the first several chapters, you're jumping around between like 3 main characters' points of view. And so that start from the get-go is a little bit overwhelming because there's a lot happening. But once you get over that initial hump of like learning some names and getting over what's going on, the rest of the series is just, I mean, you're settled into it now easily, and you kind of, you know who's who, you know what to expect, what's going on. And it's incredibly refreshing, unique high fantasy. It's very, very good.
Yeah. And I'll even add this too, like, especially if you're playing Elden Ring, you'll love this book, because there's times I was reading this and I'm like, man, some of this sounds like it's in Elden Ring. I wonder if George R.R. Martin or they kind of pulled from this a little bit, because some of it
could be.
Some of it's a little similar. And so, I mean, if you like that kind of thing, especially if you're into Dark Souls and you like reading the lore and picking up the items and reading the item descriptions and piecing things together, you'll be in hog heaven with this book. It's really, really good. And so I'll just say this: Kaladin and Dalinar, 2 favorite characters right now. Love those characters.
Dalinar's my personal favorite overall. And you know what's crazy, y'all, is that Logan's gushing about this book, and he's 40% of the way into the first book. And I can tell you, having read the whole series multiple times now, it gets so much more incredible. The heights that Sanderson takes the story to. Like my wife made fun of me because I'd be listening lying in bed, we're kind of going to sleep, and like I would sit bolt upright and be like, oh, no way. And she's like, what is going on? And I'm like, this book is crazy. Like, it's just exciting stuff. It really is so well done.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to issue this challenge for anyone that's picking it up. Get to at least the Chasm Fiend in the Way of Kings. I'm not going to say anything else beyond that. Just get to that. If you don't like it after that, whatever, you're not going to like the rest of it. But
that's a good marker. Yeah.
If you can get to that and you're like, and you get hooked, okay, you'll enjoy the rest of the ride. But if you can get to that, oh my gosh, I read that scene. What is this? We're recording this second part on Friday. I read that scene on like Sunday or Monday, and I'm still thinking about that scene because it's just so. Okay, Way of Kings. That's my reco. I'm gonna close it out there. So stinking good, Jonathan. So man, thank you for coming on this episode of the Reform Gamers. Talk about some Sea of Thieves, man. Hopefully we'll see you on the seas themselves, and hopefully you won't betray us.
I wouldn't be too hopeful about that.
Well, anyway, at least we'll get a good story out of it. But again, man, it's always good having you on the show. I'm glad you could make it for this one, and I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, dude. I always love coming on your show. It's always so much fun.
Yeah, man. Great time. Trying to make it a good time over here on the show. Dear listeners, as always with the show, I already talked about Patreon. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. You know the rigmarole around that. If you want to connect with us, there's a variety of ways that you can connect with TRG. You can go to our website, thereformgamers.com, that has links to everything, Discord, social media stuff, all that jazz. You can follow us on YouTube for some extra content as well, such as my Trails in the Sky review videos, my IGN Must Be Stopped video. I'm not going to say anything more about that. Go check it out for yourself. And then you can follow us on Twitter, like the Facebook page, join the Facebook group, join the Discord, all those places. Follow us on Instagram. Links and everything will be in your show notes. But with that being said, this has been the Reform Gamers. And without further ado, thank you for listening to this episode. Until next time, be a deer, keep it locked here, and we'll see you on the open seas.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Reform Gamers, or watching it if you watched it over on YouTube. You know, one of the perks that you get for supporting us over on patreon.com, at least at the $15 and above tier, is getting your name read at the end of every episode, kind of like having your name in the credits of a TV show or movie. And I want to shout those people out at the end of this episode here, and those people are David Matthews, Mr. Butts, and Wesley Ray. Hey, if you like this episode, consider sharing it with someone that you think would be interested in the topic or the intersection of video games and theology, and maybe even share it with someone at Chick-fil-A. I don't know, you do you. But if you like what we're doing here at TRG, why not hop on over to patreon.com/thereformgamers and consider lending your support. You get things like early uncut access to all of our episodes, you get behind the scenes episodes, extra episodes, and more of TRG. So head on over to patreon.com/thereformgamers to consider lending your support. Or at the very least, if you can't support us financially, at the very least, highly would encourage you to share this episode with some friends, family, or whoever you come across that would be interested in this topic, this kind of show. With that being said, thank you again for listening or watching, and I will see you in the next episode.